welcome to my channel, HI Beauty by Julia. I'm Julia and I'm your virtual beauty therapist. I have been one for over 11 years now, so skincare is my job, it is my passion, it is my hobby. You can find me and follow me on Instagram for more beauty content, and if you like this channel, I hope you consider subscribing to it. I want to talk about Witch Hazel because there's so many mixed opinions and you will find a lot of, I think, exaggerated type of claims that it works for enlarged pores, for acne, for breakouts, for redness, for sunburn, for puffy eyes, for itchy skin, for bruising, for really almost any type of concern that you might have. And I wanted to have a look what is Witch Hazel and what the science says about it. And to be honest with you, I kind of get why the whole issue with Witch Hazel, because unfortunately, although we have a lot of history of the use of it, there's not so many studies about it. And that's a big problem. We have studies which are funded by brands selling products with Witch Hazel, which kind of might be biased. Then you have small studies which are, say, like 30 volunteers, and that's about it. Very often the studies are based on self-assessment, so I think my skin looks like this because I used for 2 weeks this. So that's that. And then on the top of everything else, even the studies that we have in general, whether we are looking for clinical trials or in vitro and vivo, they have very mixed type of results. So some say this one works for this, but then the next study say it didn't make any. In the same time, if I see Witch Hazel in a moisturizer or in a serum, it has never been deal breaker for me. So if I see essential oils, I'll be more iffy than if I see Witch Hazel. But that's obviously my personal experience. So I have tried products that contain some amount of Witch Hazel, but not Witch Hazel based products, because I never thought that's something that my skin needs. With all that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video today, and I will give you information what is in Witch Hazel, why all the mixture, is there any scientific proof for specific benefits that you might have seen about it, and I hope you will decide for yourself whether you should use Witch Hazel or avoid Witch Hazel. I think the whole nervousness around Witch Hazel comes also from the name, because it sounds scary, but it doesn't have anything to do with witches and Halloween. It actually comes from the old wis or witch. This is Old English and it means bendable. So when the English settlers went to America, they found this bush that reminded them of hazel bush that they used to use here in England in order to help them divine water, and that's where it comes from, really. So it has nothing creepy and scary into itself. It's just Old English that we don't use anymore. As for the plant itself, it is a flowering shrub that can be found all over the Atlantic coast of North America. And actually it can be found in China and Japan as well nowadays. So it grows up to 7.5 meters. It's very tall, it can grow a lot. And it blooms in the autumn with very beautiful yellow blooms, flowers. I would like to go a little bit deeper what is inside your Witch Hazel as point of view of main compounds. So you can find polyphenols, flavonoids, catechins, and volatile oils. The main type of compound that you will hear a lot of people talking about are tannins. The tannins in Witch Hazel can be anti-inflammatory, but in the same time they might be sensitizing, they might be too aggressive for certain people if you have dry and sensitive skin specifically. So the quantity of tannins depends on the distillation, but also it depends on which part of the plant will be used. It can be anywhere between 8 and 15%. The issue with the tannins is that they compress proteins. They create this kind of a film onto the skin that does work to degrease the skin and definitely can shrink temporarily the pores, which looks very desirable if you have oily type of skin. But in the same time, the more prolonged use of something like this is more likely to remove too much of the oil, which is going to damage your skin barrier, so you will start getting dehydrated because the skin has no barrier keeping the water into itself. Also, the outside irritation will be more likely to affect your skin, so your skin will be more sensitized as well. And if you lose too much of the oil, even if you're oily, your skin will try to boost the production of the oil in order to compensate everything that is lost. So it looks well, but the improvement that you might see is very likely to be just initial. In the long term, it is not something that will give you that many benefits, and it is more likely to irritate your skin. And it's not just if it's dry and sensitive, but even if you're acne prone and oily. There are a few different types of distillation when we are looking into Witch Hazel. And the one that is mainly used is the one that is usually the most negative from point of view of outcome. So the brands will use ethanol, or this is your denaturated alcohol, in order to process the bark and the leaves of your Witch Hazel. Unfortunately, into the final products, there's usually around 15% of alcohol into your extract. So your Witch Hazel extract, 100% Witch Hazel extract, say, product, contains around 15% of ethanol or alcohol. And this can give you, once again, the improvement that you will see usually from Witch Hazel from point of view of removing the excess oil, temporarily shrinking the pores. But alcohol is definitely not something in high quantities that you want to apply onto the skin. And unfortunately, that's also the way that will maintain the most of the positive compounds that can be found into your Witch Hazel. The other processing is usually using water. So they're using steaming process in order to create this type of Witch Hazel. And a lot of brands and toners that you will see which are saying alcohol free is because the distillation process is using rather water and not something like alcohol. The problem here is that because of the high temperature that are going to be used, a lot of the compounds which are great into Witch Hazel will be broken down because they are unstable. I want to highlight the fact that when I'm talking about not suitable for this or the other reason or long term, whatever you think about, I do not mean your product with 0.1% of Witch Hazel. I do mean Witch Hazel based type of product. So in most cases, these are your Witch Hazel waters, Witch Hazel toners that have a very high percentage of Witch Hazel. Let's see what actually can be found from point of view of what we know about the ingredient and not what we know really from the brands that are selling. So the first one that you will find is that it is anti-inflammatory ingredient. So that means that it will soothe any sort of irritation. I have seen it in diaper rash products, in even rosacea products, hemorrhoids as well. Creams definitely do contain Witch Hazel. Do have studies that are showing that some conditions can be improved, but once again, this is something temporary. So say if you have some problem and you use this one because you have it at home just for a little bit, you will see improvement, you won't irritate your skin, and that's it. With that being said, the second reason why a lot of people are saying that it's great is to reduce redness. Now, redness can be caused from acne, it can be from rosacea, and the reason why people are saying that it is working for redness is because it is a vasoconstricting type of ingredient. So that means that it will shrink the blood vessels, it will reduce the blood flow into the applied area. So yes, there might be a reduction of the redness, but once again, redness usually is related with sensitivity, and long-term use is not a good idea. There was a study done for people who have exposed their skin in the UV light, so there was erythema follow, which means redness, and they used different type of solutions in order to see how the skin will be suited, which one will work better. So the scientists doing this sort of study found that Witch Hazel did work better than antihistamine, but definitely work not so good as hydrocortisone. So it works to a certain extent. Is Witch Hazel tightening your pores? Well, maybe, yes, but it is something very temporary, and the fact that it removes the oil and that it shrinks the pores temporary, it's not something that will make your body to produce more collagen. Definitely by far the main benefit that you will see for Witch Hazel product is that it's great for oily skin and it is great for acne. Now, because it is astringent and it contains tannins, it will remove some of the excess oil, but the prolonged use of it, as I already mentioned, it's just going to dry out your skin. You might see improvement in acne as well, because you have less oil, because it works anti-inflammatory, because it works to reduce the redness, but once again, this is something very initial and it's not something that will work as great in the long term, unfortunately. Tannins are antioxidants, so from point of view whether your Witch Hazel is antioxidant, actually there are a few studies that are showing that it has quite good antioxidant, free radicals fighting type of properties. As I was doing the research about Witch Hazel, I actually found that a lot of people are saying how great it is for puffy eyes. I didn't know this, but it seems that it's something that is quite popular as opinion, so I wanted to mention it as well. Now, because we are talking about constructing the blood vessels, if you apply something with Witch Hazel on the backs under the eyes, if there is fluid retention, then yes, you might see potentially some improvement. But if we are looking for puffy eyes, which are usually with the fat layers, the pads underneath here, which are shifting with age, then whether you are applying something that will shrink the blood vessels or not, you won't see any difference. And with that being said, if obviously you have puffy eyes because of fluid retention and you think about using Witch Hazel, you have to once again think how sensitive and how thin is this area around the eyes. Witch Hazel is an ingredient that can be used for sensitive scalp and dandruff. And actually for this one, there are some studies showing improvement. Over 1,000 people, I think there was a study which people were applying Witch Hazel and they found improvement of the sensitivity of the scalp. You can use shampoos with Witch Hazel inside, which can reduce the sensitivity and irritation of the scalp. You can use Witch Hazel water as a pre-shampooing type of treatment, and it has been shown to reduce the dandruff as well. Obviously, all of this is not medication, so it's a bit like a first instance type of home remedy rather than something that has a lot of clinical trials and showing this or the other property. So there is a quite long story for the use of Witch Hazel extract from the Native Americans, and they used to use it for cuts and bruises and a minor type of irritation for the skin. So say if you have experienced something like you brush into poisonous ivy or oak, if you bruise your skin, it might be able to reduce the pigmentation from the bruise much quicker. You will see that it might work for minor cuts as well, but it is not something, once again, that will be a good idea to use in a long term. So Witch Hazel into skincare products, which are in a good formula, which are, say, with moisturizing, hydrating, soothing ingredient in small quantities, for me personally, still after all my readings and etc., is not a deal breaker. But if we are looking into Witch Hazel based products, say 100% witch hazel extract, nothing added into, I don't think that it's a great idea. I think that if it's alcohol based, it's definitely no. If it's alcohol-free version, you might try it. It depends if there's something else towards your product that might give you good results. But I think in general, just like everything else in the nature, it might work for some and not for the other. It depends on the formula, the extraction, distillation, sourcing and everything else. So yes, witch hazel has some positives, it has some negatives. We don't have that much studies about it. So for some people that have very great experience, they will prize it and then will say how amazing it is. For others that have tried something that wasn't suitable for them, or they didn't apply it well, point of view they applied too much of it every single day, dry out their skin, irritated and etc., then of course they will say how bad it is. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did so, please give it a thumbs up, share it, comment below and consider subscribing to the channel. It will be very much appreciated. You can find me and follow me in Instagram and TikTok for more beauty content. I hope I'll see you next week for more beauty. Thank you very much for watching.